Now behind me are a bunch of monitors with a bunch of indicators, and they show us a bunch of different things that are happening in the market. My favorite and an indicator that I've been using for a long time is the VRVP or the VPVR, the visible range volume profile. Today I'm going to show you how to set it up, the certain settings that I use, and how it works so amazing, and how you can use it to make gains. Let's jump in and have some fun. Let's take a look at the VPVR. Okay, so here we are with Bitcoin at the all-time history index. And the first thing we're going to look at is the VPVR or the VRVP. I call it the VRVP, but a lot of time before I got into it, that's what everyone else is calling it, the VPVR. When I go to TradingView, I see it called the VRVP. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to delete it off my chart completely. I'm going to hit the delete button. It was all that blue and yellow stuff on the right side, okay? It was showing us where buy and sell volume is. That may not make sense to you, but bear with me. You're going to know so much more by the end of this tutorial. So we're going to go up to indicators. We're going to type in VRVP and we're going to click on it. Visual range volume profile. You do have to have, I believe, the premium account for this. Okay. And they've changed the colors since then. The colors really don't matter. It's buying and selling. Now you can see it's all chunky here. I find this a lot harder to use. All right, I like to go to the inputs and add a 0 to the row size. Right now, it's only 24 rows. It's going to give you 240. It's going to 10x the row size. It's going to make it far more easy to see, and it's going to help you manipulate in and out points. So that's the first thing you got to do. If you don't do that, you're not going to see it as well. Now, the colors really don't matter. All you need to know is there's a lot of buying and selling here, a lot of buying and selling here. These are places where you want to be taking profits. But let's go back in time here to Bitcoin. The key thing I want you to understand is when Bitcoin made this move pretty fast up to here, it made a gap in the VRVP. And when it made a gap up from here to here, it made a beautiful gap from about 12,000 up to 17,000, you know? So when Bitcoin bottomed here at 16,000, I could see that it was likely going to move pretty fast up to 17 and then pretty fast up to about 19,000. Why? Because I saw that there was a gap here in the VRVP and I saw there was a big gap here. It was mainly this gap that I saw. I knew that we could rise really fast, 16 all the way back up to about 20,000, 19.2, because of this gap. Gaps tell me that price action can move fast when it starts to gain momentum towards the gap. Once we start headed towards the gap, we're going to rip through the gap. And you can see, coincidentally, whenever you're going to have a massive move in price action that goes up pretty fast with like multiple green candles in a row or multiple red candles in a row, like right here, you can see multiple green, there was a gap there. If you watch my channel back in that during this period, as crazy as I am, like I had this as a cup and handle and I said, man, there's a gap in the VRP. I said, do not be surprised if we rip up to 19,000 in the next couple days because there's a gap there and it looks like we're on our way after the bottom. And next thing you know, that happened exactly. And then you can see the gap up here. And I said, man, once we keep ripping, you can clearly see that the next plants we'll probably have an issue with is at this high volume node at 23,000. And we ripped up 23K, right? This continues to go over time. And then we make new gaps and ideas, and then we can use them in the future too as well. And you keep kind of watching. Now Bitcoin gets into price discovery, right? And you don't really, you have to go by kind of the VRVP gap that you've made now. Now, why does it move so much? What's happening with the VRVP? Like, why does it disappear and show up? It takes its time. The indicator has to take a lot of price action and then generate itself. Now, there's a way to do the fixed one, right? You can go here to the 1 plus sign, 1, 2, right? You can go here to the 1, and you can go to the fixed range volume profile. You could pick an area. Like, let's just say I want to go from here all the way to there. And it's going to give me this bottom to this top. And it's going to show me the range. It's going to show me the point of control in the middle, which is kind of the key area where price action likes to facilitate and hang out and pick a direction. Once it gets above that, you usually get a pump. It gets below it, you get a dump, right? We got below the POC, we dump down to what we call the volume area lows. Once you get above POC, you pump up to what we call the volume area highs. And this is kind of what you see. So when you get down to the volume area lows, and then you kind of rip down to these low areas, and again, it does coincide with support and resistance. This all kind of moves together. Then once you come down quick, you're going to see there's a gap here. And you know that you can gap right back up. And that the next area you're going to spot is this high volume node, and then the next high volume node. And you can see that's exactly what happened here. Like we came here, we stopped at this high volume node, we ripped really fast up to the next high volume node, and then you're at the volume area high. That's how we can kind of predict where Bitcoin's going to go once we've seen price action. Now, once you're in price discovery, you don't have the VRVP really, because you need price action on the left side to see it. But then you'll start making new areas, like you'll come up, come down, boom, 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 and the VRVP will start to make area, and then you'll see gaps, you'll follow the gap, boom, 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 and then later on, you'll be able to use that information to trade. And even here, once we came up, came back down, we saw that we had nodes, high volume areas of liquidity, and we knew we could make the move back to the upside through this gap. gap. Whenever you see a big gap in liquidity, you can make a really fast move in price action. So I use this all the time, and you can use it on smaller and bigger time frames. You can use it on different indicators, different assets. It works on Tesla, it works on gold, it works on silver, Bitcoin, oil, you name it, it's there, right? Let's take a look at the S&P futures and take a look at that, and you can see here clearly, like when we bottomed right, you know, we bottomed at this high volume node right there when we bring all the information in right there. See it sticking out? I told you that when price came down, we were likely going to bounce. Now I drew a fib, and that fib also coincided with the 618 golden pocket. Look at that. High volume nodes are like, I look for high volume nodes that coincide with support or resistance, coincide with a fib level. That told me if we bounce, we would bounce up to this area at 52.5. We did. And then if we got to rip, we would rip up to here where we would consolidate, which we did. And then look, now we can rip all the way back up. I don't see why not to 6,000. You see what I'm saying? Because you could see that that's where you're going to go. So you can basically determine what's happening by watching the VRVP. And it gets more sensitive on smaller time frames and bigger on bigger time frames. Back to the fixed range. The fixed range is just fixed, as I showed you before. It's just, you know, it doesn't move with price action. It just shows you, like right now, if I wanted it, I grab it here, I'd go from this level to this level. I want to see what's happening right here in the fixed range. Look, it took a second to generate because it was generating the VRVP twice, right? In both areas. I mean, Bitcoin's mooning now. This is crazy, right? It looks, and what I showed people too is now you're in price discovery. This does, you know, become mute. Now you got to actually, you know, work on your TA, but you break out of a huge flag. You come back inside, you got to trade the flag as if you broke back inside again and just go hard. And this trade now looks like it's just going to continue to rip. It'll probably stop a little bit at 106.5, but then there's really nothing left. And then Bitcoin can rip all the way to a new high at 112,000. And again, this high volume node, it's above that. Once it's above that, it's going to price discovery. Had problems getting above this, then you would have to assume it could fall back down to 96K, but like it consolidated beautifully here, and they played games with the longs and the shorts, but now it's ripping back to the upside. I see this thing mooning and gaining serious momentum. So that's how I use the VRVP. One more time, I'll show you, like I'll look at a smaller time frame, something people like to trade like Solana. We'll look at Sol on like maybe the 15-minute time frame just to kind of give you some other ideas here. You got to have price action on screen for the VRVP to develop its, you know, to show you what's happening. So look, Sol had this huge gap in the VRVP. So we knew once we consolidated, look, shoulder, head, right shoulder, we started to make the move. You're going to fly through that gap until you got to here. Now you came down and you're looking for some support and you found, look, this high volume node. Now we know if we lose this, we're going to drop down somewhere to 150. But if we can hold this key level, if this can show up as some type of flag here that broke out but broke back inside and continue to rip, you're going right up to 170. And then if it break 170, you go into the value area highs at 188. Once you've kind of developed that on that time frame, you can then zoom out to the bigger time frame, which is the weekly, and start to see your key levels on the weekly as well. So you can use the VRVP on smaller time frames and bigger time frames. Give it some time to, you know, make itself. Here you can see when there's a slope. This is how someone also explained the VRVP to me when I first started learning it. They said, look at it like price is a ball. I said, when the ball leaves the hill, it's going to bounce down. I said, it's that simple. So like this has already left the ball when you look at it. And so Solana's on the left side of the ball. Like it fell down once, bounced back, but it looks like it's going to continue to fall down. Like someone tried to throw the ball up the hill, but it didn't make it. So this tells me that there's a good chance that Solana just has to make maybe a flag on the weekly or maybe the daily time frame, and that once it gets rolling again, it's going to roll down the VRVP, right? You got to move your head and kind of look at it that way, right? So once this flag breaks out on Solana, it's very likely it's going to pump, and it's going to go, look, the measured move lines up exactly with that high volume node at 254. It's also the same place where people sold before. So the VRVP shows you key areas where people bought and sold. If you just use support or resistance, you'll probably be pretty spot on too. Like there's a support, resistance, that was the high volume node. What it helps with is the gaps. The gaps are really key because they can let you see a bigger trade that's coming, and you can stay in that trade till you really get paid. And that's what's really key about the gaps for me when it comes to the VRVP. So I hope this gave you some insight as to how to trade the VRVP, how I use it and why. And I could make even more videos about it. It's such an awesome, beautiful signal. I've had it for so long that when I show mine, I have the original colors, the blue and yellow. It doesn't really matter, okay? It's nothing changed but the colors there. But again, here, look at this Solana play. It looks like we could probably come back a little more lower, maybe, you know, to that high volume node, and then boom, we're going to break out there, and then the ball's going to fall down the hill. I mean, I just see how Sol gets to 254 on that VRVP. You can see how I'm using the VRVP to see where price action is going, and it's very accurate. It works very well. The reason why the VRVP scares people is because it looks so simple, they can't believe it could be that simple. I remember when someone first showed it to me, I said, there's no way that I could just fall down the hill and go through these gaps. And again, you have to be precise. You have to know how to get into entries and find out where to get in and be proper with your risk management. But man, this indicator will change your life once you start using it. It'll be your support of resistance. And if you use your support of resistance on top of it and your fibs, you're just going to get confluence. You're going to get areas where you see too many of the same bullish idea at the same time. And that's just it's gonna help you take advantage of so many trades. If you like the way I explain this and you like this information, come to my live stream Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. I also do an impromptu morning update on the weekend, somewhere between 8 and 9 a.m. usually. So I can't wait to see you there. I am streaming 9 times a week, 7 days and 2 extra days on the weekend. So 9 streams every single week, an extra one if we get your power or a monthly close. And I'm putting in the work to give you the information you need. More information coming out like this, more recorded videos to keep you up to speed with my trading style. I can't wait to see you again. Please comment, like, and subscribe. My name's Sam Price, the Crypto Lifer, and thank you so much for being here. Crypto is life. God bless.